Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about the break there. I just had to take some stuff off the hard drive of my handheld cam recorder here. Camcorder, old technology, but it's something I'm used to using. Yeah, but let me get into show you the records, and I'll hop into the CDs here from the final day. These are all 10 cents a piece, so some interesting stuff. I was actually impressed what I find at this sale, at the Friends of the Library sale. It's always impressive that, you think like if you miss the first couple days there's no point going, everything's going to be all picked over, but things tend to sort of keep being added to the collection, sometimes in vinyl, but especially in the CDs. They've got a limited amount of space for the CDs, so they're always adding stuff, replenishing the bins as the days go on. So I found a whole bunch more great jazz stuff on the final day for 10 cents. Actually had to leave probably about 20 CDs behind I wanted, just because I ran out of money. I brought $7. I thought $7 at 10 cents a piece, that's 70 things. I'm not going to find more than 70 CDs and records I have to have on the final day. But sure enough I did. I had to kind of prioritize, left behind some sort of a iffy CTI jazz types things, and probably a good thing. I don't want to keep adding a bunch of sort of iffy stuff to my collection. I'm running out of room. So these were the more I kept finding interesting stuff, the more I kind of got rid of the chum and just sort of narrowed down the collection to the really interesting stuff. So I'm pretty happy with what I finished up with. So yeah, 10 cents a piece. Here we go. First up, George Adams, Old Feeling. This is a, what label is this? Hard to tell. God damn. Oh, it's Blue Note. That's kind of odd. Does not look like a Blue Note CD at all. Seems a little iffy. Does not look like a Blue Note CD at all to me. Anyway, great sax player, George Adams. This one definitely looks shady. A Black Saint recording. Great jazz label, Black Saint. George Adams, Don Poland Quartet. Looks like live at the Village Vanguard, Volume 2. You can kind of make out the Black Saint logo there, sort of gray on white. This looks almost like a color photocopied insert here. And just a really, really weird looking painted disc there. This looks like a European gray market reissue here. What is this label? Yeah, this one seems really weird to me. Actually, this is a Soul Note recording. I'm sorry, not Black Saint, Soul Note. Sister label to Black Saint. 2009 Kepach Music, K-E-P-A-C-H. Definitely looks like a color photocopied or high quality color printing on this, but not professional grade, quite kind of shady. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 10 cents. I'm gonna pick it up. Great musicians, really good music. Gene Ammons, The Boss Is Back, from Prestige. This looks like looks like an old Prestige record with some bonus tracks. From the Muse label, I didn't have anything on CD on the Muse label. I was kind of glad to pick these up. Bill Barron, Kenny Barron, Ray Drummond, and Ben Riley, The Next Plateau. Kind of cool. I've actually seen several Muse CDs at a kind of thrift shop here in town, but not very good stuff. Nothing that really seemed all that interesting. Bill Barron, Modern Windows Suite. Looks like from Savoy, the Savoy label, Savoy Jazz Originals reissue here. Kind of interesting, nice reproduction of the Savoy. I don't know if that's what the original, definitely not what the 78 RPM label looked like for Savoy, but looks pretty cool, pretty classy. Yeah, I don't know a lot about this. Bill Barron, featuring Ted Curson and Kenny Barron. Reissue produced by Orrin Keep News, should be good stuff. Kenny Barron, What If? This on the Enja label, or Enya. German label here. Kenny Barron, but you can see the other players there. But anything on this label I pick up. I like these German and European jazz labels, especially for 10 cents a piece. Another Gary Bartz, Music is My Sanctuary, from Blue Note. Looks like another CTI thing here. George Benson, Beyond the Blue Horizon. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, recorded in Paris, Album of the Year it's called. And this one looks like it's Rudzy on the Timeless label. I think that's a German label, maybe Dutch, could be wrong. In the band here, Wynton Marsalis, Bill Pierce. Don't recognize the other players. Definitely 1980s Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers with Marsalis in the band. This is weird, on the Evidence label. Evidence I know mostly from their Sun Ra reissues. I think maybe it's a label out of Chicago, I could be wrong. Fire Waltz, Terence Blanchard, Mal Waldron, Richard Davis, Eddie Blackwell, Eric Dolphy, and Booker Little, remembered live at Sweet Basil Volume 2. So it's a live recording paying tribute to Eric Dolphy and Booker Little. Should be interesting. Don Braden, Workin', on High Note Records. Another one on the High Note label. And let's see if this one, if it's engineered by Van Gelder. No, it wasn't. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe he wasn't all that involved in these. I could be wrong. Clifford Brown All-Stars Jams 2 from the MRC label, Mercury Records MRC division. Some more Blue Note here, getting into Donald Byrd, Jazz at the Waterfront. Pepper Adams on baritone sax. This is an interesting one. I don't recognize this. Blue Note Connoisseur CD series reissue, introducing Kenny Cox and the Contemporary Jazz Quintet. Don't really know anything about Kenny Cox. I'm not going to pass up Blue Note for 10 cents. Let's see. Lou Donaldson, The Natural Soul, with Grant Green, the great Grant Green on guitar. Tommy Turrentine on trumpet, John Patton on organ, Ben Dixon on drums. Great band. Another one on High Note. This is Charles Erland with Najee, If Only for One Night. Melvin Sparks on guitar. Okay, this one, engineered, mixed, and mastered by Rudy Van Gelder. Recorded at Rudy Van Gelder Recording Studio, Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. So yeah, some of these High Note ones definitely were recorded by Rudy Van Gelder, and this one in 99? Yeah, 1999. Definitely late in Rudy Van Gelder's career. That guy's around for quite a while, doing his thing, Rudy Van Gelder. So the band, this one, Eastern Rebellion. My vision's getting bad as I get older. I'm 47, and even with contact lenses I have to wear cheater glasses to read. Just One of Those Nights at the Village Vanguard. This one on the Music Masters Jazz label. Kind of an odd choice. Eastern Rebellion is Cedar Walton piano, Billy Higgins drums, David Williams bass, and Ralph Moore on saxophone. I think they did a series of recordings for the Timeless record label. God damn, these CDs will sit up right in this box here. Timeless, can't remember if that's a Dutch or German label. An interesting label. This one from 1995. Booker Irvin, The In-Between. Another Connoisseur CD series reissue here from Blue Note. Ella Fitzgerald, Mac the Knife, The Complete Ella in Berlin. I've got this on record, the original record, but this has several bonus tracks. Good stuff. Great recording. Can't remember who played. She had a good guitarist on this, I know. I can't remember now. Herb Ellis, I think, on guitar. Billy Harper, Somalia, on Evidence, the Evidence label. Next up, another steeplechase record here. Nightfall, the Lewis Hayes Quintet. So again, you can kind of tell the steeplechase CDs because they have these blue rectangles and circles. Another one on Evidence. This is the Billy Higgins Quintet with Harold Land, Cedar Walton, Oscar Brashear, and David Williams on Evidence. Another CTI here, Freddie Hubbard, Skydive. Like I said, I've been trying to collect CTI on vinyl, but I think I might just go with the CDs instead. The vinyl are typically thick gatefold, they take up a lot of room on the shelves. Definitely some I'll keep on vinyl, but a lot of them, especially when they have the full string accompaniment, not something I'm going to listen to on a regular basis, so I'd rather just have it on CD. Freddie Hubbard, High Blues Pressure. This is a Coke Jazz reissue. They reissued a bunch of Atlantic Records stuff, I believe. That looks like Atlantic Records type cover art there. Let's see if I can figure out what's going on here. Yeah, originally released in 1968 on Atlantic. Freddie Hubbard, Friday and Saturday, Keystone Bop Volume 2. This looks like some 1980s, early 90s stuff with Joe Henderson, Bobby Hutcherson on vibes, Billy Child's piano, Prestige, recorded in 1981, so early 80s. Probably pretty good stuff. Satin Doll by Bobby Humphrey. This on the Blue Note Rare Groove reissue series. So kind of more of your funky 70s Blue Note stuff. I think Bobby Humphrey was a flute player. Yeah, flute and vocals. Definitely Blue Note getting into sort of funky disco-y type music here. Not my favorite era of Blue Note, but I know some of these are sought out by DJs and rare groove type people. What label is this? 32 Jazz. Joel Doran's label, I think. Vibe-wise, Bobby Hutcherson. Looks like maybe there's two records on here. Reissued. They don't always give a lot of info on these 32 Jazz reissues. Kind of pisses me off. Not my favorite reissue label. Not really sure when these were recorded, but I love Bobby Hutcherson. It looks like maybe there's two titles here: Good Bait, Color Schemes. Okay, so these were originally released on Landmark Records. So Orrin Keepnews' records. I think he started Riverside Records, and then Milestone, and then Landmark Records in the 80s, sort of like Pablo. For Norman Granz, Landmark was Orrin Keepnews' label. I think I've got these on both on vinyl, so it'd be kind of nice to have them on CD. For portability's sake, Willis Jackson with guitarist Pat Martino, Single Action on the Muse Records label. Charles Kynard, The Soul Brotherhood. Looks like a compilation here. Charles Kynard on organ, one of the great, I'm not sure about great, but one of the collectible jazz organists here. This is Prestige reissue here, recordings from about 69, 68 by Rudy Van Gelder. Kind of soul jazz type stuff. Ramsey Lewis, Maiden Voyage. And This one is a Japanese reissue. I don't know if you can make out the Japanese characters, but there's the little Jazz Rack Rights logo there. Nice reproduction of the Cadet label. Kevin Mahogany Double Rainbow on the Enya label. Enya, German label, full digital recording. Take a note of this, the name written on here, Poole, P-O-O-L-E. I'll explain that in a minute. Next up, Jackie McLean, the Jackie Mac Attack Live. This is a Verve CD recorded in '91. Jackie McLean, Rites of Passage from Triloka Records. An odd label for jazz. Wes Montgomery Tequila, arranged by Klaus Olgerman. It's a classic Wes Montgomery Verve recording here. One of these beautiful trifold CD reissues. I always like picking these up. Very nice packaging on those. Okay, the stack is looking a little perilous here. I'm going to have to restack. Sorry. Okay, next up, Hannibal and Antibes. Another one on Enya, whatever label, out of Germany. Marvin Hannibal Peterson on trumpet with George Adams on flute and tenor sax, among other players, recorded in '77. Andre Previn on piano. Andre Previn and his pals. Modern jazz performances of songs from Pal Joey. So he's got Shelly Manne on drums, Red Mitchell on bass, classic contemporary records recording, original jazz classics reissue. That was in the soundtrack section. I almost forgot to look in that section. I was kind of glad I found that there. Another one by the guitarist Emily Remler with on Concord Jazz with Hank Jones on piano, Jack Hanna on drums. The Reunion Legacy Band on Early Bird Records. Don't know much about that. Good musicians: Charles Tolliver, Gary Bartz, Groshan Moncour, John Hicks, Mickey Bass, Billy Hart drums. Interesting stuff. Almost getting close to the end here. This one from the Timeless Records label. Archie Shepp, Black Ballads, with Horace Parlan piano. Okay, yeah, Timeless Records out of Holland, Dutch label. Interesting. Horace Silver. I always get a kick out of the cover on this. The Horace Silver Quintet, You Gotta Take a Little Love. For some reason, the artwork on this reminds me of the TV show The Love Boat. You know, with the water and the people all looking really happy. I don't know why. I think it's more of in a soul jazz type period here for Horace Silver. Horace Silver Retrospective Blue Note 2 CD collection here. I actually left behind the best of Horace Silver. I figure why get a 1 CD best of when you can get the 2 CD retrospective. John Stubblefield, Counting on the Blues on Enya, Germany. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Hemiet Bluyet. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I recognize the player. Great baritone sax player. Just passed away recently, unfortunately. Don't think I had any of his recordings in my collection, so I'm glad to have this. Somewhere there needs to be a guide online of how to pronounce jazz players' names. There is one, but it's only got about 10 names in there. It says to pronounce Jimmy Geoffrey. I thought it was pronounced to pronounce it as Jew Free. Who knows? That's about the only thing I picked up from the pronunciation guide there. John Swana and Friends. This one on the Crisscross Jazz label. Another European jazz label. Don't know much about it. Another Dutch label out of Holland. Mulgrew Miller on piano, Ira Coleman on bass, Billy Drummond drums. God, does it get any more white looking than that guy? Wow. Malachi Thompson Spirit on the Delmark label, Chicago jazz and blues label here. Very cool. Leon Thomas doing a little cameo on vocals. Stanley Turrentine, the spoiler. Getting back into the Blue Note here. Stanley Turrentine, look out. Stanley Turrentine with Milt Jackson, Cherry. Classic CTI recording. Stanley Turrentine, Sugar. Love how they put the gigantic hype sticker covering up a quarter of the cover art there. Gotta love that. Thank you, Sony Legacy. Gerald Wilson, Orchestra Portraits from Pacific Jazz Records. Reuben Wilson, this one another of the Rare Grooves series from Blue Note. Set Us Free. So kind of getting in your funky soul jazz, or I don't know what you call it exactly, but rare groove type stuff. Rites of Swing from Phil Woods. I just recently bought this on vinyl in New Orleans, and I was kind of surprised to find this from the what is it, the Musical Heritage Society, MHS. See the logo there? You may have seen these records. They're just kind of black and white printing. Licensed from Black Lion Records. Well, here in the US it was put out in a different label. I think maybe Candid. Interesting stuff, recorded I think in 1961, yeah. Some good players on here. Curtis Fuller trombone, Sahib Shahab baritone sax, Julius Watkins French horn, blah 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 blah. Again, this is what you used to pay for used CDs, $11.99. Got this for 10 cents. Getting to the end here. Another one by Kazumi Watanabe, Japanese guitarist here. Mobo 1 and 2 from Gramavision Records. Interesting fusion-y, proggy guitar stuff. Finally, from the American Clave label, I mentioned American Clave, produced by Kip Hanrahan, interesting musician, producer. I'll pick up anything I see his name associated with. This one is Horacio El Negro Hernandez and Robbie Amin. Robbie and Negro at the Third World War. So some sort of Afro-Cuban jazz stuff here on the American Clave label. Yeah. The Village Callers live. This one I think is some obscure type stuff. Reissued on CD here in 2003 by a label called Vampire Soul. So I think it's one of those rare LP type things that they reissued because it was so collectible. The Village Callers. So yeah, that was it for the CDs, and then I did a final loop around right before I left. I had a few minutes to kill, and I saw some things I'd seen on the floor by the 78s and just kind of skimmed by them. I thought there was some like 7-inch record, like maybe classical music on 7-inch. RCA used to put out little box set type things of like 4 or 5 records. Just kind of a stupid idea, like you want to keep flipping 7-inch records to listen to one classical piece. But it wasn't at all what I thought. When I took a closer look, I was kind of impressed. They look kind of scuzzy when they're on the floor. They're kind of a box, and they have a plastic, this plastic coating, and between the plastic and the artwork, moisture had gotten in there and it had gotten a little mildewy. And so I've cleaned it up and it looks a lot better here, but it looked pretty scuzzy. But these are Japanese, Japanese sort of boxes. I'm not really going to call them a box set, but it's a box thing. It's a cardboard slipcase. It's classical music. This is Mozart. And these are put out by Toshiba, Japan. And so you've got like a little booklet that slides out of the slipcase. Slipcase is pretty neat. It's got sort of an obi strip here that wraps around. And then there's the plastic, of course, going over. This isn't shrink wrap. It doesn't peel off. This is like a permanent kind of plastic thing. But then there's a booklet inside. Each one of these is dedicated to one classical composer. This one, Mozart. And it's got the Angel Records logo on the back. Angel was sort of EMI Records in America. It was released under the name Angel. It's kind of weird they didn't use the EMI logo for this Japanese release, but whatever. It's a little booklet. You can see there. Maybe I got it upside down. I do. Mozart. This is like number 2 in the series. So this unfolds and then unfolds again. So you've got 2 little 7-inch records here that play at 33 RPM of recordings, I guess, off the EMI or Angel classical music label. And then there's a booklet here. And then the booklet contains a lot of historical information. There's a cover page, Mozart, about the musician, biographical information, photographs probably of historical places from his lifetime, some of his writings, I assume. Everything's in Japanese, so I can't read a word of this. There's no English here. It wasn't intended for English markets at all. And then there's some kind of interesting little inserts that were in here as well. I imagine this was kind of like a mail order thing. And it looks like this is some company that did it. They probably also did books, some kind of books. This is some kind of little mailer here, maybe a catalog, or promoting their other items. Interesting stuff. This is kind of neat. Can't read a word of this, but they got some nice images here. Looks like someone doing some mastering work. A nice diagram here. Very Japanese. Looks like the recording process. Recording to the console, onto tape, mastering it onto the lacquers, making a pressing. Someone testing it to make sure it's a high quality recording. Everything sounds good. Then they box it up and throw it on the truck and truck it to your address. That's the whole process from recording to delivery to your doorstep. I assume that's what that is. Again, some more. This is from like late 1960s, sometime in the 1960s. So some interesting images here. Sort of the mastering process being done in Japan by EMI Toshiba. Yeah, so I bought 3 of these. They had about 12 of them. If I had more room in my bag, I probably would have bought them all. I don't know if they're really worth anything, but I can't find anything on Discogs or online about these. They are the, there's a title to the series. I think it's the World Music Series. World Music Library by Toshiba, Japan. So I picked up the Bach one and Tchaikovsky. Just kind of neat to have in the collection. Something a little different. But anyway, I mentioned that name Pool on one of the CDs, and then when I went through the records, kind of checking out what I bought the previous day, I saw this name on this Bethlehem compilation. Reed Pool. Did a quick Google search, Reed Pool, Gainesville, Florida. He was the band director at the university here at the University of Florida, and was instrumental in bringing jazz band to university, starting a jazz band, and apparently also in desegregating the bands, I suppose. Sound like they were segregated, white band, black band, and he kind of desegregated them even without like direction by the university. He did it on his own. So sounds like a pretty cool guy. What I found online was his obituary. He died in 2006, I believe. but obviously he was a big jazz fan. If I'm correct in my assumption that these CDs all came from his collection, I'm pretty sure they did. It seems like a weird coincidence, if not. So I'm very happy to have his CD collection. And I actually, a couple days after the sale, I got a call from a friend of mine, Ted, who lives here in town. He used to run a record store, and called me up, and he was asking, I'd ran to him at the sale, and he was just kind of asking what I'd found at the sale. Well, he made it the first 2 days. He said there were a ton of Blue Note records on CD, even sealed, not even unsealed, still sealed, in the bins. But he passed on a lot of them because they were $4. He's like me, he's a cheapskate. He's used to going to thrift stores and finding stuff for $1 or less. But yeah, apparently there was just a ton of stuff. It looks like, I would guess as much as I bought was sold out, maybe twice as much the first day or two, before I even got there and picked out the ones I picked out. So must have been a massive collection of great jazz stuff, classic jazz stuff, more interesting stuff on European labels. So I'm glad to have some of it in my collection. I'm definitely going to listen to it and enjoy it. And I'm grateful to the family of this guy. Kind of cool. It's kind of cool knowing where these things come from. A year ago, I picked up a bunch of jazz records from the same Friends of the Library sale, and they had another name, and it was another guy associated with the School of Music here at the university. So I'm glad to have his records in my collection as well. It's one of the nice things about living in a university town is, you know, some of the older professors have some really cool collections, and when they pass along, their families donate them, and someone else gets to enjoy them. And that's what I plan to do with these. I'm not going to flip them. These are going to, all these CDs and records are going to stay in the collection. So yeah, kind of cool. That was it. I had a lot of fun. I was happy. I spent maybe about $160 in all, and just got a ton of music here. It's going to keep me busy for a long time. I'm even chilling out and hitting the thrift stores now because I just feel like I've got so much stuff to catch up on. Kind of happy I didn't pick up a ton of vinyl, so I don't have a bunch of stuff to clean. I can just grab a CD every day and throw it in the car. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry if the videos ran long, but just a lot of stuff to show. And just stuff I don't see normally every day. This is like Christmas in October for me. I mean, I'm not going to spend much money for the next couple months. Not really going to buy myself much for Christmas. This is my Christmas shopping right here. Definitely not something I see in the stores every day, so I had to grab it while I could. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.